let's finish off this episode by talking about a couple of former Penguins, a couple of Cup champions that may be trending towards the end of their NHL playing careers. Let's start with Justin Schultz because he is heading over to Europe, signs with HC Lugano of the Swiss League. Last year, he played with the Seattle Kraken on a pairing with Brian Dumoulin, scored 7 goals, 26 total points in 70 games played. A guy who still has a lot of value, it feels like, around the National Hockey League, or at least you would think so. A right-handed shot defenseman that can go out and move the puck and still put up points. Usually those guys are in high demand, but unfortunately for Schultz, not able to find a contract in the NHL this season, heads over to Europe. He was a major factor in those Penguins back-to-back Cup runs. What I forgot, because time hurts a lot of things. You forget certain things. He was on the third pairing both years in the playoffs, playing primarily with Ian Cole. Even that second year when Kris Letang went down, he was technically a third pairing defenseman, even though Mike Sullivan was deploying his defense pretty evenly throughout.
Deploying an even defense and giving Schultz that top line power play opportunity.
Yeah.
Which was huge, especially without Letang out there for it was the entire playoffs.
Yeah.
It was that was the height of his career, you could argue. I mean, that was his career year, that 16-17 season. He had 50 plus points.
Yeah.
And even at the age of 35 and playing with Dumoulin last year, he still had a little bit of that ability. Obviously, it's declining with the age and the system that he's playing in and the the role he was in as a third line guy in Seattle. It's a little surprising that no one took a flyer on him. That's listen, if you played better defense, I'd say the Penguins got to get him at league mill because I'm tired of whatever rotation they're doing with the third pairing on the right side. But last thing you need is three forwards playing defense for you.
Yeah, especially all on the right side.
Exactly. So obviously wouldn't have fit in Pittsburgh, but that being said, I'm just shocked no one took a flyer on him, especially with the way, I don't know when everything was set in stone. Utah could use a right mover now. Season. For this year, now that they've lost Marino and Dursey for couple of months each. Yeah. But they also Utah does like what they have on the right side, and Kesselring, Valimaki, and I think they signed Robert Bortuzzo over the offseason. So they have a decent enough right side to cover. But I'm just shocked there wasn't, of the 32 teams, someone that wanted to take him. Apparently, he may have had options, but he was looking for a certain role. Also, Edmonton would have. That should have been his home.
Yeah. Regardless, I think that there's some that say that this could be it. Obviously, there have been players that have gone to Europe and then come back. We'll have to wait and see with that. So we're not saying Justin Schultz is done in the NHL, but obviously when you go over and play in Europe, there is, especially whenever it's this late into the season when you sign, it means you were holding out hope for something in the NHL and you just weren't able to get it. But if you look back at that 2017 playoffs, which is really whenever he became the guy in Pittsburgh, and then, of course, the meme of him walking down Boulevard of the Allies, swigging a beer on Point Park's campus. 4 goals, 9 assists tells a lot of the story. But that goal in Game 4 against the Washington Capitals, I don't think is talked about enough. It's a power play blast from Malkin. Crosby is out in that game because he gets cross-checked to the face in Game 3 against the Capitals by Matt Niskanen. That gave the Penguins a 3-1 series lead. That series went 7 games. But if they would have been tied, if he wouldn't have scored that game-winning goal, I know it was the second period, but it was a 2-2 game. They were on the power play. He scores that goal. The place erupts. If they lose that game, there's a good chance they lose that series to the Washington Capitals if you go back to Washington even at 2. Instead, they were up 3-1. I know that it got to Game 7, and then we all saw what happened with Marc-Andre Fleury being hero once again, but that goal is not talked about nearly enough in my eyes.
That's a good one, and you're right, because when I think of Justin Schultz goals, that one doesn't even come to mind because I immediately jump to Game 7 against the Ottawa Senators. I believe it was the go-ahead goal at the time.
Third period,
it was the go-ahead goal in the third period. But then also in the Cup final, I believe it was Game 5, he opened the scoring of that blowout. They were both the same sort of from the point blasts. Those are the ones I remember more, maybe because the height of the goals is a little higher and a bit more clutch. But that one is a good one. In fact, I don't even remember the play at all. So thank you for that. Now I need to go do some research after this.
Yeah, just look up Justin Schultz game-winning goal against the Caps in 2017. That's the one will come up. But I agree with you. Obviously, the one against the Senators was huge in Game 7. But I'm just saying this one isn't talked about enough because they might not get to Game 7 against the Senators if he's not able to put the Caps away in this one, especially the moment of having Crosby not out there for that entire Game 4 to be able to come out with the victory. I think that was huge for the Pittsburgh Penguins. So shout out to Justin Schultz. A lot of great memories. I do have that t-shirt of him. It's the Walking on Sunshine t-shirt of him chugging a beer on Boulevard of the Allies. But, always goes down in Penguins history as one of those big time defenders in that 2017 Cup run. And, you mentioned they won in Game 6 against, was it Game 6? No, they won in 6 against Nashville. Whatever game it was, 4, where they blew them out. That was Game 5. Never mind.
5.
Because they had to go Game 6 and they won on the road. But Game 5, when they blew them out, he got overshadowed by Ron Hainsey in that one.
Oh, well, yeah, but, someone had to open the scoring before they put up 6 more.
Yeah, somebody had to score 1 before they scored 2 through 6. You're right. The other player that we're going to discuss really briefly, Connor Sheary, placed on waivers. He was obviously Connor Sheary when he was with the Penguins and winning Stanley Cups, but now he's Connor Sheary, and he has been waived by the Tampa Bay Lightning. 15 points, 4 goals, 11 assists in 57 games last season. He has 0 points in 3 games played. And they said, you know what? We got the other undersized forward that helped the Penguins win cups in Jake Gensel. I don't think we need Sheary anymore.
That's fair. It's just,
not fair. It's a joke, but yeah.
Connor Sheary's always been a weird player. I don't know how to put it. He had good seasons with Washington, but not outstanding. But I guess just kind of playing the correct role for that team. Obviously, he did great things with Pittsburgh. Buffalo is Buffalo. You cannot take that into this consideration. I don't know. I'm not totally surprised because he's undersized and because the production's probably starting to dip a little for his age.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a team in Tampa Bay that is more often than not pretty stacked up front. I mean, especially whenever especially when they added guys like Jake Gensel, it's good for Tampa Bay to have that sort. That's a good problem for them to have. And Connor Sheary just becomes gets the short end of the stick of it. Yeah.
I mean, if you look at his seasons, sneaky consistent goal scorer. Obviously his career year, similar to Justin Schultz, 2016-17, where he put up 53 points in 61 games, which I can't believe I just read that out loud. Like that's almost a point per game for Connor Sheary is crazy. 23 of those being goals. But you look at, like you mentioned, what he did in Washington, 14 goals, 19 goals, 15 goals. That's a really good stint at the height of his career, right? That's supposed to be his prime. And now it just hasn't worked out when he goes to Tampa. Like I mentioned, only 4 goals last year and not a great start to this season. So is it the end of his career? Probably not. He'll probably get another opportunity somewhere, but unfortunate that it just doesn't seem to have worked out with the Tampa Bay Lightning, because that's a team where you would think an undersized forward that has that goal scoring ability would be able to find a role.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see where it goes. Contract could also be a big part of it. I don't know what exactly is going on with Tampa by way of what their lineup looks like and how things are rolling. Because I mean, like they just signed Jake Gensel for $9 million. It's Connor Sheary's making $2 million and has 2 years left this year and next year, and a 16-team no trade list. Did they just sign this? No, they signed it last year. It
was a 3-year deal. Yeah.
What a fascinating little deal they signed him to. I mean, teams are impatient right now too. It's that part of the season where you got to perform right now, right away, for us to want to hold on to you. And no points in 3 games. I mean, for a team that has cup aspirations, especially it needs to produce and perform without their franchise cornerstone and Steven Stamkos, gotta give the wake up calls.
Yeah. So as of right now, Sheary and Schultz likely to be out of the NHL, at least for the foreseeable future. We'll see when Sheary potentially comes back up and goes to the Lightning.